Here are the top stories for today, November 10, 2020. President Duterte highlights the importance of immunization. New PNP Chief Sinas gets high approval among several lawmakers. DTI says most of the complaints they receive are from online shopping customers. And let us take a look on the different uses of recycled plastics. Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Torrential rains in the northern part of Ilocos Norte have caused a series of landslides and flood in low-lying areas. Those who are planning to go to northern Luzon are advised to postpone their trips for their safety. Maintenance crew of the Department of Public Works and Highways or DPWH based in Ilocos Norte and Cagayan are already conducting road clearing operations along the Manila North Road in Barangay Balawi, Pagudpud, Ilocos Norte. Meanwhile, let us check out the weather from Pag-asa.
In the next 24 hours, patuloy pa rin kikilos pahilagang kanluran itong si Ulysses. And by tomorrow morning, ayan po ay Wednesday, 8 a.m., yung si Ulysses ay isa ng typhoon intensity at nasa layong 175 kilometers ilagang silangan ng Catanduanes. And dahil po sa nakita nating pagkilos na palapit dito sa may Bicol region, nakataas po yung tropical cyclone wind signal number 1 dyan po sa amin sa Catanduanes, Camarines Norte, Camarines Sur, Albay, Sorsogon, dito po sa eastern portion ng Masbate kasama ang Ikaw at Urias Islands, dyan po sa mga bayan ng Aroroy, Baleno, Katakinan, Dimasalang, Masbate City, Mobo, Palanas, POB, Corpus, and Uson. And pati rin po sa southern portion ng Quezon, sa Agdangan, Alabat, Matimonan, Buena Vista, Calawag, Pagkanawan, General Luna, Ginyangan, Bumaka, Lopez, Macalelon, Mulanay, Padre Burgos, Perez, Pitogo, Plaridel, Quezon, San Andres, San Francisco, San Narciso, Tagkawayan at Pulisan, pati rin po sa Northern Samar at sa northern portion ng Samar Province, Almagro, Calbayog City, Gandara, Matuginaw, Pagsanghan, San Jorge, San Jose de Buan, Santa Margarita, Santo Niño, Tagapulan at Tarangnan. Dito sa northern portion ng Eastern Samar, sa Arteche, Dolores, Lapad, Maslog, Uras, at San Policarpo.
Several lawmakers support the appointment of Major General Sinas as the new PNP Chief. The details from Benj Bondoc.
For former PNP Chief and now Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa, the appointment of Major General Sinas is a good choice, noting his good track record. He said the new PNP Chief should continue the internal cleansing of the Philippine National Police and the successful campaign against illegal drugs. For Senator Panfilo Lacson, who is also a former PNP Chief, Sinas is also a good choice amid criticism hurled against him. Lacson said he believes Sinas is a performer and mission-oriented, and the Mañanita controversy will serve as a lesson learned for him. Meanwhile, Senator Christopher Lawrence Bongo said that the good track record of Sinas will strengthen the administration's campaign against illegal drugs, crime, and corruption. For Ako Bicol Party List Representative Alfredo Garbin Jr., Sinas must work on restoring public trust to the PNP as some police officers are involved in illegal drugs, illegal gambling, red tagging, and rape. For Muntinlupa Representative Rufy Biazon, Sinas would show that he has learned a lesson from the Mañanita issue by giving an exemplary performance as Chief PNP. Meanwhile, outgoing PNP Chief General Camilo Cascolan said Sinas is able to sustain the success of the PNP on its campaign against illegal drugs, crime, terrorism, and corruption. The change of command ceremony was held this afternoon with limited guests because of the strict implementation of health protocols. President Rodrigo Duterte delivered his message via virtual conference. DILG Secretary Eduardo Año served as the presiding officer in a simple ceremony held at the multipurpose hall in Camp Crame. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Benj Bondoc.
More than 40 immigration personnel implicated in the so-called Bastilla scheme are summoned in Malacanang. Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara said President Rodrigo Duterte gave them a dressing down by distributing pastillas with money rolled inside and dared them to eat it. However, the president did not insist out of deference to the Secretary of Justice, who was also present. The Office of the Ombudsman has ordered a 6-month preventive suspension without pay of 44 BI personnel involved in the Bastilla's anomaly. Ombudsman Samuel Martires ordered the suspension following a BI report that there were discrepancies between the statement of assets, liabilities, and net worth and the salaries of some employees tagged in the airport bribery scheme. The Bastilla's bribery scam refers to the operation wherein grease money was rolled up in paper like the wrapper of milk candy. Parents are urged to have their kids vaccinated against communicable diseases. Communicable diseases are illnesses caused by viruses or bacteria that people spread through contact with contaminated sources, bodily fluids, blood products, insect bites, or through air.
The most important lesson that we are learning from the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic is that the health risks posed by the spread of communicable diseases must be seriously addressed. I therefore call on parents of children under 5 years old, as well as the local government leaders and other community stakeholders to support the immunization activity. Together, let us safeguard the well-being of our children and ensure a healthier future for our nation.
Heading to the news in the provinces, 8 trucks from the Department of Agriculture, or DA, have been mobilized in Pangasinan to transport palay from the farmers to the warehouses or buying stations. The project, called Libreng Hakot, first started in La Union Province and then in Pangasinan. DA also organized Kadiwa ni Ani at Kita outlets to help farmers connect directly to consumers and or buyers. In Ilocos Norte, the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, or BFAR, has approved the release of 15 million pesos for the establishment of a fish hatchery. The budget would come from the Department of Agriculture's allocation under the Bayanihan to Recover as One Act. The fish hatchery will be used exclusively for malaga or rabbit fish and bangus, as these both high-value fish species are suited for aquaculture. In Tarlac, a total of 5,662 senior citizens received their year-end benefits. Mayor Christy Angeles said this is her administration's early Christmas treat in this time of COVID-19 pandemic. The distribution was held in areas designated by each village, such as barangay halls. However, for elderlies who couldn't walk from home, the benefits were delivered by barangay officials to their residences. The proposed 2021 budget of the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, or NTF-LCAC, gets a backing from Senator Panfilo Lacson and Albay Congressman Joey Salceda. According to Senator Lacson, the fund is part of the Special Purpose Fund under the Assistance to Local Government Units, or ALGU, and is intended to hold and develop barangays that are cleared of New People's Army, or NPA, influence. The budget is funding development programs such as farm-to-market roads and livelihood as part of confidence building to prevent the insurgency problem from returning. For House Ways and Means Chair Joey Salceda said the budgetary items, which is similar to bottom-up budgeting, allocated for the anti-insurgency task force might seem like a direct national security budget when the funds are actually for countryside development. He said countryside development programs under the NTF-LCAC is an acknowledgement that some solutions are not military in nature. Still to come, a town in Surigao del Sur launches a massive tree planting program. And there will be no caroling this Christmas season. More on these when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Alamin kung paano ang tamang pagsusuot ng surgical mask. Una, hawakan ang mask sa strap at siguruhing natatakpan nito ang inyong bibig at ilong. Tandaan, ang may kulay na bahagi ng mask ang dapat nasa labas. Ito lamang ang tamang paraan ng pagsuot nito. Ihulma ang nose piece o maliit na metallic strip ayon sa hugis ng inyong ilong. Iwasan ang paghawak sa inyong ilong at bibig. Kung marumi na ang mask, hubarin ito gamit ang strap at itapon ito sa isang basurahan. Siguruhin ang maayos na paghuhugas ng kamay gamit ang sabon at tubig. Ang surgical mask ay dapat gamitin ng mga pasyenteng may sakit sa baga o mga taong mayroong ubo, sipon at lagnat, mga nag-aalaga sa mga may sakit, at mga healthcare at frontline workers. Maaari ring magsuot nito kung kayo ay pupunta sa matataong lugar. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
Programs and projects geared towards sustainability and resiliency are ongoing in several parts of the country. The details of this from Chris Mundo.
In Cantilan, Surigao del Sur, a massive tree planting was launched under the Cash for Work program. The local government targets to plant around 1.3 million trees in the area by next year. A total of 1,500 residents from 6 barangays of Cantilan will be part of the project and would be paid 2,400 pesos each for a 6-hour work per day for 10 days. Tree species to be planted include nara, falcata, and fruit trees to include mango, cacao, and guyabano. In Nueva Ecija, some 700 indigent residents have benefited under the Cash for Work scheme of the Department of Social Welfare and Development. Beneficiaries were given temporary employment by working in the Community Garden Project. They received 3,000 pesos each as compensation for their 10-day work. In Bacolod City, the local government will tap leaders of the business sector for the strategic planning exercises in the implementation of the World Bank Green and Resilient Development Program. This, as Bacolod is among the pilot cities recently selected by the World Bank to be part of the Technical Assistance Program. The technical assistance, which builds on the 2017 World Bank's Philippines Urbanization Review, intends to provide best practices options and recommendations for strategic urban planning in select secondary cities in the Philippines and to guide them in pursuing sustainable and inclusive growth. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Chris Mundo.
In our foreign news, the United States has formally left the Paris Agreement, marking the only nation among nearly 200 signatories that abandoned the global agenda on combating climate change. The U.S. formally pulled out of the pact last November 4, a year after the agreement took force. U.S. President Donald Trump announced back in June 2017 that his country would leave the Paris Agreement. Trump announced the withdrawal soon after he took office, citing concerns about the pact's threat to the U.S. economy. The Trump administration also rolled back environmental rules made in the Obama era to prop up the coal industry by allowing it to emit more greenhouse gases into the air. The Department of Health, or DOH, on Monday advised the public to avoid doing Christmas caroling this year to prevent the spread of COVID-19. DOH Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere cited a study that suggests that loud singing could spread COVID-19 and increase infections. She said the decision on the possible caroling ban would still be up to the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases. Earlier, Interior Secretary Eduardo Año said he will propose a caroling ban to this Yuletide season nationwide. The DOH has released public health guidelines on holiday celebrations for this year, such as limiting the number of attendees in gatherings in line with the observance of physical distancing. A lawmaker on Monday urged private sector employers to release the 13th-month pay or year-end bonus of their employees early. Anak Kalusugan Representative Mike Defensor said paying the bonus ahead of the December 25 schedule would ease the financial burden of employees amid the COVID-19 pandemic. He said private sector employees could also do early shopping to escape the Christmas chaos. Defensor meanwhile said more than 1.5 million workers in the government will receive their Christmas bonus starting this week. Under Section 8 of Republic Act number 11466 or Salary Standardization Law 5, the year-end bonus equivalent to 1 month's salary plus a 5,000 peso cash gift shall be given in November of every year. He said if the funds are already available, agencies should begin giving the bonus on November 15. In our business news, the country's two biggest online shopping applications have been recorded as having the most number of transaction complaints with the Department of Trade and Industry or DTI. In a virtual meeting with the Lower House's Committee on Trade and Industry, DTI Undersecretary Ruth Castelo reported over 6,900 online purchase-related complaints from January to October this year against shopping apps Lazada and Shopee. She added the remaining complaints last month involved transactions on Facebook and other online platforms. Castelo said most of the online complaints of consumers were in violation to the Price Act, defective product, and deceptive, unfair, or unconscionable sales acts or practices. The committee conducted the meeting following the growing report on online fraud. The committee also discussed the recent spate of internet scams and fake online bookings, particularly pranks in food delivery. The Philippines, along with the rest of Asia, is seen to benefit from the Joe Biden presidency. Rizal Commercial Banking Corporation Chief Economist Michael Ricafort said the possible decline of trade war concerns between the U.S. and China could result in increased global trade and economic growth, especially in Asia. Ricafort said a lesser protectionist stance in the U.S. could also benefit the Philippines' import and exports, as well as remittances and the business process outsourcing sector. Similarly, the institution of additional U.S. government spending could result in better economic outcome and benefit its trade partners. He said the Philippines is also seen to benefit from Biden's preference for renewable power. Ricafort said the Philippines would also adapt to drastic changes in the U.S. towards greater cooperation, such as in obtaining more assistance on COVID-19 vaccines, infrastructure, security, and defense, locally and in dealing with the West Philippine Sea. Up next, charges have been filed against NPA recruiters. And let us take a look on the different uses of recycled plastics. More on these when the PNA Newsroom returns.
Alamin ang tamang paraan ng pag-ubo upang mapigilan ang paglaganap ng Coronavirus Disease 2019. Ugaliing magdala ng panyo o tissue. Kung uubo o babahing, takpan ang buong ilong at bibig gamit ang panyo o tissue. Kung walang dalang panyo o tissue, maaaring gamitin ang braso na pantakip. Kung nakararamdam na kailangan umubo o bumahing, agad na dumistansya sa mga tao sa paligid. Huwag dumura kung saan-saan, gumamit ng tissue at itapon sa basurahan. Ugaliin ang paghuhugas ng kamay at paggamit ng alcohol o hand sanitizer upang mamatay ang mikrobyo. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
The Philippine National Police has committed to help a former child warrior seek justice against the people that recruited him into the New People's Army or NPA. More on this and other news from the provinces from Marita Mawahe.
The Philippine National Police vowed to assist a former child warrior who filed a human trafficking complaints against members of the New People's Army who recruited him. PNP Northern Samar Provincial Director Colonel Arnel Apud said he had ordered the Women and Children Protection Desk to assist Jake De La Cruz in filing charges against the NPA members. De La Cruz alias Kaanda, who used to live in a remote village in Northern Samar, said the NPA took advantage of his age and convinced him to join the armed rebellion. The minor is one of the 3 armed rebels arrested during the strike operation of the Philippine Army in Epao Village, Las Navas, Northern Samar on June 1, 2020. Meanwhile, another ranking NPA leader has surrendered due to the relentless military operations in Misamis Occidental. The platoon leader was identified as Mary Grace Tamapad Buhawi, who surrendered Saturday afternoon to the troops of the 10th Infantry Battalion in Sinacaban Town. She is the second-ranking NPA leader who surrendered in Misamis Occidental this month, following team leader Cirilo Biosa Sumibay. Joint Task Force Zampelan Commander Major General Generoso Ponyo said the military continues to welcome more surrenderers who signify intent to lay down their arms and return to the fold of the law. In Negros Oriental, 8 members of the NPA surrendered to authorities in Gihulngan City over the weekend. The Army's 62nd Infantry Battalion said the rebels surrendered on Sunday to the Gihulngan City Task Force to end local communist armed conflict. Since August, the number of suspected NPAs who surrendered in Gihulngan City has reached 42. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Marita Muaje.
Residents and officials of a village in Lambunao, Iloilo have expressed their support to the ongoing pre-registration for the Philippine Identification System, or PhilSys. The Philippine Statistics Authority targets to cover 517 households in Barangay Walang for the ongoing PhilSys pre-registration. Barangay Chair Gemma Legarda said not all her constituents have identification cards that can be used for transactions. Walang Barangay Council Maria Eileen Rose Latosa, meanwhile, said residents can use a national ID whenever and wherever they need to show proof of identity. Lambunao has 73 barangays and about 14,000 household heads have been identified for the pre-registration. 2 other barangays, Hayobo and Maribong, were also targeted for pre-registration as some of the town's biggest barangays. Barangay Walang is also one of the 7 villages of Lambunao where population is 100% indigenous people, or IPs. In sports, Japan has hosted the first international sports organization since the postponement of the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. A total of 30 gymnasts from Japan, the United States, Russia, and China took part in the first major international competition that includes athletes arriving from overseas. The one-day gymnastics competition of Yoyogi National Gymnasium was viewed as a test of the city's capability to safely hold an international sporting event amid the COVID-19 pandemic. The visiting teams were allowed to forego the government's mandatory 14-day quarantine for people arriving from overseas. The athletes, coaches, and operations staff had to report negative PCR test results to take part in this one-day event. Tokyo 2020 Olympics Games will be held on July 23 to August 8, 2021, while the Paralympic Games will be held on August 24 to September 5, 2021. San Miguel Corporation is eyeing the construction of bicycle lanes made of recycled plastics in its partner cities and provinces. SMC is working on the next phase of its plan to widen the application of the environment-friendly post-consumer plastic waste. This is a follow-up to the building of the country's first plastic-made asphalt road in General Trias, Cavite almost a year ago. The company says that while biking to work has now become a more viable alternative mode of transportation for many Filipinos, there is a need to make road conditions safer for people on bicycles. SMC President and Chief Operating Officer Ramon Ang said the company is looking to work with technology partners and local governments willing to put up dedicated bike lanes to accommodate cyclists. In Ilocos Norte, Luzon National High School in Pagudpud Town is slowly converting their wastes into eco-bricks. These are used for school beautification purposes, while some are sold to the community, including plantitos and plantitas who use them for gardening. The school got their seed money for the project after winning a contest on solid waste management sponsored by the North Luzon Renewable Corporation, or NLREC. Ilocos Norte, in partnership with the NLREC and Green Ants Builders, plans to construct and develop an eco-hub in the province. The facility aims to collect and transform discarded plastic materials into valuable resources like eco-bricks for construction. And here's another look at today's biggest stories. President Duterte highlights the importance of immunization. New PNP Chief Sinas gets high approval among several lawmakers. DTI says most of the complaints they receive are from online shopping customers. And let us take a look on the different uses of recycled plastics. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check more news content, visit our webpage or head on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also, watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, I am William Theo. Good day. Stay safe, everyone.